It's Mrs. Smith here to do your chapter number 13. Check my progress. I am on page 777 today. So go ahead, and if you haven't done so already, you're going to want to pull out your math book and be on the same page as me. All right, we're going to get started with this vocabulary check at the top. So your big vocabulary words for this chapter so far have been area, perimeter, square unit, and unit square. Okay, we're going to go ahead and fill out these 3 questions here, and you'll notice that I only have 3 blanks. So the first question says, the distance around a figure is its, what do you guys think? What do we talk about when we talk about the distance around the outside of a figure? If you said perimeter, you're correct. Perimeter is the outside of a figure. Okay, so I've used this one. Number 2 says a square with a side length of 1 is called a, what do you think? If you said square unit, you are correct. Okay, next. Oops, I messed that up. I'm sorry, 3rd graders. This is a unit square. I had it in my head backwards. That's okay. We make mistakes sometimes, right? Whoopsie. So a unit square, and I'm going to flip back for you to show you where I'm looking. I'm looking at my vocabulary card. So you can see we have square unit and unit square. If I look at the back of my vocabulary cards, a square unit is a unit for measuring area. A unit square is a square with a side length of 1 unit. Okay? So I mixed that up. I'm sorry. Make sure that you have number 2 as unit square. Okay, and then number 3 says blank is measured in square units and represents the number of those needed to cover a figure without overlapping. Is that square unit or area? Yep, if you said area, great job. The area is the number of square units that are needed to cover or fill in a figure without them crossing over each other. Good job. All right, so numbers 4 and 5 down here talk about estimating the perimeter of each figure. Now, this is a lesson that we did not do in this chapter, so I'm going to go ahead and use my teacher superpowers to say you don't have to do those ones. Of course, if you would like to challenge yourself, I would encourage you to go back and look at lesson 1 in chapter 13, and you're more than welcome to figure out how to estimate the perimeter of those shapes, but we are not going to hold you responsible for those ones today. All right? So flipping to the back page of your Check My Progress, we have questions 6 and 7. They say find the perimeter and area of each figure. Okay? Number 6 is a little bit more straightforward because you have a shape that is just a square. So I'm going to go ahead and do number 7 because that one's a little bit trickier. So I'm going to zoom in on it for you. So remember, the perimeter is the distance around the outside of the shape. We are going to count the number of sides that we see here with the squares to see how many little parts of that square are covering the outside because it's not labeled for us. So if I count the sides of the square here, I have 1 and 2. Then I'm going to count this little guy on the side here. That's a length of 1. And then this one here is also a length of 1. So I have a 1 and a 1. Those are close together. Make sure you don't mix them up. Okay, and then down the sides here, we have 1 and 2. Do you see how I'm labeling it as I go so that I don't forget any parts? This part here is another 1. And then again, this guy here is 1. So you see how these corners, each of these little boop, boop, inside corners here, they have a 1 here and a 1 here. So my 1s are tiny, but make sure you see them. Then again, down here, 1 and 2. And in this corner, we have a 1 and then another 1. 1 and 1. a 2. You see how long this takes, but we just have to take our time and make sure we're getting them all. And then this last corner, we have a side length of 1 here and a side length of 1 here. And when my highlighter is all the way touching, I know I'm at the end. Okay, so let's see if this unblurs itself so that I can have you guys help me add them up. So to find the perimeter, I'm going to calculate the sum of all the side lengths. That means I'm going to add them all together. So I have 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 1 more is 4. 4 plus this 2 is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, and that's what happens when I add 2 plus 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1, and that gets me 16. Okay, now the area, again, is the number of unit squares it takes to fill in this shape without any of them overlapping. So I'm going to go ahead and count those blue squares that are inside. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so I just counted those blue squares that were inside, and that gave me my area, the number of them needed to fill in that shape. Okay, going down to number 8, this is one that we did in the perimeter lesson, where you have to find the missing side. Okay, so they tell me in this question, my perimeter, my answer, my total is going to be 89 inches. Okay, I'm going to add up the parts that I do have in order to find the missing side. Let's see if this gets unblurry for us. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and add up the sides we do have. So we have 34 plus 20 plus 20, right? And then this question mark plus something equals 89. So now I'm going to line up my numbers and add those all together. So I did 4 plus 0 is 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 74 on this side, plus something will get me 89. Okay, so I can count up from 74 to see how many it takes me to get to 89. Or I could do an inverse operation and do 89 minus 74. Whichever one works for you, you can do. I know we prefer counting up most often. So if we go 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84 is 10, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89. So I had 15 fingers that it took me to count up. So my missing side length is 15. So 15 inches. Okay. All right. I want to make sure this isn't blurry so you can see it. There you go. You can pause it if you need to. Alrighty, moving on down here. I have questions 9 and 10. All right, let's go ahead and do question 9 together, and then you are going to do question 10. Okay, question 9 says, Jeremy will help his father build a patio. The drawing represents the patio. What is the area of the patio in square units? So looking at this drawing here, if I zoom in super close to it, that might be as close as I can get. That's as close as I can get, you guys. So if I'm looking at this drawing, I can see that there are quite a few whole unit squares in there where I could count them exactly as they are. But there are some that are half squares. So if you see right here, I have a half of one right here. I have another half of one here. I have another half of one here and here. Okay, so let's count up the whole squares that we have together first. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so I have 12 whole squares. But now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 half squares. So the way that I'm going to figure that out is if I put 2 of these half squares together, I get a whole one, right? A half plus a half is a whole. We talked about that in fractions. So if I have this one and this one, these two triangles, if I push them together, would make one. And these two down here would make a second one. So 12 plus 2 equals 14 square units. Okay, you're going to use this answer here to help you figure out number 10. We're going to pretend that instead of each of these squares being 1 square unit, you're going to pretend that they're 3. Okay, so in order to do that, you're going to take the 14 square units, and then what are you going to have to do with this 3 here to show me that this is 3 times as big now? That was my clue, 3 times as big. So you go ahead and try and figure that out, or you can use repeated addition, right? If I had this was 14 and now it's 3 times as big, I'm going to have 14 plus something, okay? All right, so you're going to go ahead and do number 10 and number 11 on your own. Make sure that you fill out any of the other questions that maybe we have not done on this video yet, and then circle the questions you get stuck on and be sure to ask your teacher if you get stuck or need help. I will talk to you guys again soon.